Hey, housewives, come on in. You know the dirty dishes are still in the sink from yesterday and the laundry is still in the basket. Pop your AirPods in and make yourself at home here.
I'm Tracy.
I'm Tori.
And we are your Unlikely Housewives. Stepping out in faith and believing that God calls the unlikely, we are here to show you the appreciation and validation you deserve, lead you to authentic relationships, and release you of believing the cultural lies to restore your faith and wellness.
Pull up those high-waisted yoga pants, tighten your top knot, and reheat your coffee for the third time. Turn up the volume, and let's go. Hey, housewives.
Hey, welcome back, housewives.
We are going to try, and I say try in like italics or parentheses, like quotes. Maybe.
I say quotes.
Maybe try to talk about the huge subject of phones.
Yes.
And all of the things that go with that. We have had things like we've talked about screen sanity, which helps parents and gives them skills or gives them resources to use to like help monitor screens and filters and things like that. But there is a big, as we talked about, there's a book that is really popular right now. It is The Anxious Generation by
Jonathan. Starts with an H.
Well,
try. We emphasized we were trying.
Right. I
have the book. I just didn't bring it out.
Yes, I have the link. We'll put the link in the show notes. But it's really popular. It's gotten some good traction. And the discussion about it is what effect are not just phones, but smartphones and social media having on the younger generation. And so it's, we've talked about how, social media, kids, all of the depression and the anxiety and what a heaviness that is for kids and the downfalls of that. And then also too, like the incredibleness of social media. If you've been with us for a while, Olina's donor was because somebody shared a Facebook post. That's pretty incredible to find a kidney donor through Facebook.
Yeah.
So you can't say that it's completely, wrong. Nobody needs it, but
yeah,
it has its place.
Absolutely. And we're going to do a part 2, like a secondary just conversation around the anxious generation book specifically. We're not going to dig into that today because we kind of felt like we just need to have this, open conversation about it. One, because we always have 2 different perspectives on things.
Yep.
We're in 2 different seasons of life. We have 2 different ages of kids. We each got a phone at a different point in our life, and so we kind of want to talk about the habits in which we all created, the positive and the negative of the phone. And I can talk about a perspective as well of getting rid of social media on my phone and how it's changed the relationship of my phone to me, but also what it's replaced.
So let's talk about, because there were 2 podcasts and we'll also include those in the show notes. So you guys can kind of, if you want to listen to those and then know kind of where our perspective is coming from. Because Tracy is reading the book. She's more in the third part of it now?
Yeah. You're in the meat of it, which
I
think the first part, and again, we can talk about that later or in another episode. It's so database statistics, like the information is good. We should all know that. But it's also, we just are in the season of life of like, let's get to the result. Let's get to the answer because I'm living in it right now. So what can I do to make it better for where we are right now?
Right. And so the main thing too is that there are 3 different pockets, basically. Okay, so we're talking phones, and then there's a different, so when we say phone, we're talking just a phone. When we say smartphone, we're talking the iPhone, because that specifically has changed generational trajectory. And then when we say, and then there's the piece that social media plays in it. So I'm going to try to like make a big difference between when we say like, letting our kids have a phone. Like
I think we're basically just saying smartphone anymore. Like we used to be able to say like, we used to have house phones, right? Like those don't even exist anymore. Like
landlines, actually they do. And they can go out for an entire week in your business. Not like I'm speaking from experience or anything. And it's absolutely awful.
Right. Landline home phone. There's obviously phones that you can still call businesses and restaurants and things.
Do you remember your home phone number?
I do.
Go ahead. Do you know it? Can you say it?
Yeah, 309-482-3978.
Mine was 972-699-1829.
No, ask me my kids.
Yeah.
Don't know them.
I don't know. I know Andrew's phone number. That is one. I know like 5.
Yeah. I had like my grandparents and then like a couple like girlfriends, because hello, that's how we communicated back in the day.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't have other than so when my husband and I, we moved, we changed our phones before we moved here. We got almost identical phone numbers. So like the last 4 digits is all that's different.
Oh.
So our kids were able to memorize their phone numbers easily.
Yeah. It's funny. Andrew and I, we take great pride in our phone numbers because our phone numbers are both from Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're still Chicago.
We have Dallas as it was growing. It started as a 214 number. Yes. And then it grew into 972 in the suburbs. And then 972 ran out. And then it was 469. So I'm like 214 with the OG. That's my phone number. And I'm like, you're the suburb 972.
Yeah.
All that to say, when my first phone was a Nokia.
Mine too.
With Snake. And
with Snake?
Yeah, the game that you could play with.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Remember?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was my first phone. And I got it in 7th grade. And the only reason I got it in 7th grade was because I was on the weekend, I was working with a dog handler and I was out of town. Like I would travel with a dog handler. And so my parents wanted to be able to get a hold of me and have.
But it was only a phone, right? Like, could you call, text? What were you using it? Was that just
I could just call. It wasn't until the flip phone, which was high school, which, then you press 4 times on 2 to get E and doing, that. And then texts were short and just like, see you later, like that's how I started texting with Andrew. We started he had a BlackBerry. So he had the full keyboard. But
he was fancy then, because if you had a full keyboard, you were high class.
He had a real job and I was a waitress. So
that was the difference.
He had a sales job. So that was like, he wore a suit and I wore jeans to work and class. So.
Well, I said Nokia was my first phone. It was my first in my hand phone. I did have a bag phone.
You had a bag phone.
I did. It was passed down from my brother. I feel like my brother got his when he was like 17. Was his first one, and it was like plug into the lighter, lift it up,
in the car, lighter
in the car. Lighter in the car. That was the only way that the phone worked, though, was in the car.
Yes,
into the lighter.
Yes, yeah. Kids. Okay, so if you're there, when they made cars, there used to be a cigarette lighter in all the cars.
Yeah.
Okay, and then people started using it as a power adapter, so you would have your phone charger plugged into the cigarette lighter, or if you were real fancy and you got a car that was only cassettes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cassettes. You got an adapter that you plugged in to change it so we could play out a CD on a Walkman. All the things that you had no idea, you didn't know.
All the cords.
There's so many
cords.
So many cords. So many.
Yeah. So then I would say my first handheld phone was when I went to college, and it was like a little, just tiny little Nokia, just the buttons. And it was and then I think I graduated to a flip phone.
Yeah.
And that was probably
Motorola. Everybody had
probably like my early 20s.
Yeah. And then how did you text when you got to the flip phone? Was that?
It wasn't, there was no keyboard on that yet. I did get the next phone I had. So the before smartphone was the slide. It would slide up like it was, and that's where my keyboard was. And that's when I would text.
Yeah.
But even then though, it we text to call. Like it was like, hey, what are you doing right now? Can you call?
Yeah.
Like there was no like conversations in text like they are now.
Yeah.
I mean, because it just took so much time.
Yes.
And there was no such thing as unlimited back then either.
Oh,
so we were paying per text or paying per minute or so expensive.
I remember taking phone, like buying minutes.
Yeah.
And I spent buying minutes on and took the little card with me. So when I was on vacation with my family, I could use the phone to call friends back at home. And that's how because they used to charge you for long distance, which is a thing, which is insane.
Yeah.
Or like, do you remember roaming charges?
Oh, yes, I do, because I lived in the country. So like not just in the country, in the hillbilly part where it was just that area. And then you leave and go anywhere else and you're basically roaming. So
yeah, that's crazy. And the reason that we're talking about all of this is because the phone obviously has had a huge transformation on our lives, on the culture. And I think the two podcasts I listened to that Tracy recommended, I was listening to them, and of all the stuff that they were saying, like kids don't need to have phones and kids don't need to limit your screen time. And you don't know how many apps that they've hidden, or they just leave the house and then download it again. Or you don't you can trust your kids, but then make sure you're checking everything. And I listened to those two and I was just like, wow, I feel really like shame. Like, what's the word? It's not shamed, but like, wow, okay. They just berated me on all the things that I'm doing wrong with with the phone that I'm for my 10 and 11-year-old. Like, it was just like this plethora of list of things like, okay, make sure you put the settings on, make sure you get the parental control, make sure that it's not an actual, give them something else to do. This is, don't give them to them at the restaurant, make sure that they know how to have eye contact and like all of these things. And I was just like, I don't feel encouraged by this laundry list of things to do at all. I was like, I almost want to duck my head in the sand. Now, my girls are 10 and 9, and their first phone was, we gave them Apple Watches because that was to call and to text. And that was so I could track them. But, that was the next best thing. But it really is overwhelming when you've got youngers. And I know as you've got olders that you're navigating, because it's like, how do you take away? So, now that we know that social media is terrible, how do you take social media away from a teen? You can't, or you can't.
You can, but you can't.
Right.
It's also like, it is a part of their life. It's a part of their connection in their social world.
Yeah.
Which their social worlds look different. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I would say too, let me go back though. When did you get your first iPhone? How old were you? Like your first smartphone, where you were like,
I was married.
Like internet. Yeah. Like
I was married because I remember specifically I had a red BlackBerry when Andrew and I met. That was the first phone I got when we got married, and we added our phone lines together. Yeah. So I was probably 23, maybe 20, probably 20 on. When was it?
Well, that's what I was pregnant with Garrett, which is my third kid. I was 32.
Okay.
I was probably 32 before I had a smartphone.
Okay. I was probably 25, 26.
Okay. That's about right. Because I'm just thinking about like, and the conversation of this started, and for you guys, just to think about, like, have this conversation with yourself and with your spouse and with your friends, because funny enough, like we joke all the time that I'm older, she's so young, whatever. Similarly, we like got them at the same time frame, but we were in different seasons of life, right? So we have different experiences with things. And some people held off, right? And waited, and they were so adamant. So adamant that they weren't going to have Apple, iPhone. They're so expensive. Yeah. Like I just remember that season of life too. And the whole, like, I mean, and I'm so proud of my friends that still stuck to the like, Apple, those Samsung people.
You mean the ones that disrupt our text threads?
Yes, because they're all green. I had my youngest ask me that question the other day. She's in a group text, which is the one and only I allow her to be in because I monitor it pretty strictly on her. You get to do different things with different kids. It's not fair, but it still happens.
Yeah.
And she kept asking me, Mommy, why does this always go green? And I was like, funny, like you have someone in there that is using a non-Apple device. And she's like, huh, what's that?
Exactly. What is that? That would be called an Android.
Yes.
That's what all are referred to as. Yeah. No, it was funny. In one of our group texts specifically, we were so excited when our friend finally
switched over and we could all be
and we're like
blue and leave voice memos and like just have normal flow.
But now with the latest update, you can do voice memo in non-all thread iPhones.
Yes,
so,
that's true.
I mean, it's changing.
Yes, we're growing and changing.
It is interesting on the phone thing. But we were also talking about what the phone has allowed to happen. It's given us a sense of urgency, like an all the time I need to be available thing. I mean, they believe it or not, people could only contact you when you were at home and you could answer the phone.
Yeah.
And you had an answering machine that also had a cassette tape, and it was these big. It was the tiny little things. You never had it, and
we never had an answering machine.
Oh my gosh! I remember my grandmother's answering machine. Going to her house and seeing the physical answering machine and playing back messages.
It's funny that you say that. I look at we look back obviously at our grandparents.
Right.
Our grandparents had no idea what a smartphone was.
Yeah.
Think about the generations that are changing and which generations are like, I mean, we've joked about this too. Like our parents obviously have their smartphones and have figured things out. I mean, sometimes my mom gives me a list of, hey, tell me how to do this. And I know you've had this with your dad. We kind of joke about that. Love you, Mom. And I will help you forever.
You too, yes.
But it's a point, like there gets to be a point of like, holy cow, this is above me. There's that generation, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm up helping, them figure things out. And then you aren't joking though, when you're like, oh, it made me feel bad. Our kids are smarter. Your kids are smarter than you when it comes to your phone.
Yeah.
Your kids are smarter than you. They know how to hide things. They know how to delete things. Like there are ways. And I mean, even just in the Snapchat world, and that's a whole different world because that's like, we're going to talk social media another time. But in the Snapchat world, I mean, if you pay like $1.99 a month or $2.99 a month or whatever, you can have premium to where people can't see when you saw their stuff and you can hide who sees things. And like, it's just out there. So your kids are smarter than you, just saying, when it comes to getting into things. But it's not to make you feel guilty or bad or like afraid. We're not fear mongering here. We are just having this conversation because one, it's important. And two, we're in that season where I'm in it. How do I help good, healthy habits teach detoxing from your phone every now and then and what that looks like? And you are setting parameters for your future. And then those of you that are listening that have younger kids, you get all this ahead of time and you and your spouse get to make a decision with the information on what to do because we didn't have the books.
No.
We didn't have the Netflix documentaries. We didn't have the research because it was current. It was new. We were like walking through it. Now we've had, what did we say? 18 years since the first iPhone came out and probably, really 10 years since social media started. And again, it started with us as like first rounders.
Yeah. Social media started in 2005.
Yeah. And so like our college years.
I'm sorry, 20. It was 20 years for social media. Is that not insane?
So the social media came out before the phone. Duh. Yes. Because you could access it on the web.
Yeah. That was when
on the internet.
On your laptop.
Yes. Or a desktop. Nobody had laptops.
Oh, I had a laptop.
Well, by the time you did.
Okay.
You were in college. I would have had a laptop in my 20s. So again, same, different age.
Yeah. The sense of urgency that comes with having a phone on you all the time, right? It used to be like somebody would call you, and if it wasn't that important, they wouldn't leave a voicemail. If it was important, they left a voicemail. That's how you could gauge the importance of, wow, we're totally skipping beepers and pagers. There's a whole generation of beepers and pagers.
Yeah.
Did you not have that? Andrew
no.
did. Andrew.
So Chris did too, but I think that was, what's the word I'm trying, demographically a thing?
Okay. Yeah.
You know, like
big cities.
Yeah. Maybe. Bigger cities, more people. Like, I don't know
that
anyone in my school and high school that would have had one.
Yeah. Nobody. I mean, we in our high school, we had phones. No, I don't think we hit the beeper stage. Although I don't know if when I was in middle school, the high schoolers had beepers. That's entirely possible.
Okay, let me just for a second. What years were you in middle school and high school?
I graduated high school in 2005.
Okay, so you were the prime 90s kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So the urgency, right, was always gauged on whether they left a voice message or not. Then when the phones, I felt like when the phones got text messages, like that was, hey, can you call? Or that was like a precursor to the phone call. I'm just going to text them real quick and see if they're available to talk on the phone. And if they're not, then they won't respond and it's fine.
Yeah.
So there was, again, not, like you did or you didn't, you were available or you weren't. But over time, we have allowed the notifications and the dings and the little red circles on all of these different little things make us feel like, oh, I've got to check that right now. I mean, literally, I was just thinking about this because we were discussing this with Andrew, like your workday used to be 8 to 5.
Yeah.
Like you were available at your work hours from 8 to 5. That was it. So if somebody was trying to reach you, they called your work phone between the hours 8 and 5. And then if they tried to get you after work, they called your home phone. And if you didn't answer, you left a message. But now being connected all the time, like there's this pride that people have of like, I'm available all the time. Like, I'm going to give you the best customer service because I will get back with you within 24 hours, or I'm going to get back with you. I mean, the Google actually tracks the response rate from businesses and says this business usually responds within a couple of hours. And that sounds amazing. Like, oh, great. This business is on top of it. But like for us, I mean, my small business, we're closed on Saturday and Sunday. Also, we don't care about the internet. Just because, who needs the internet? It's just fad. But like those response times are just not going to be there because Saturday and Sunday we do have people reach out to us and we're closed. Yeah. Like that's just not going to change. But it is amazing how people automatically assume like, okay, let me ask you this. Would you be more inclined if you heard your phone and saw that I had text messaged you and you said like, oh, Tori texted me, or if you looked over and saw your phone and saw that I was calling you, what's the difference when you see a text message from me versus when you see a phone call from me?
I'm going to answer a call and I'm going to ignore the text until I want to check the text.
And that's a habit, right? But that's a habit that you and I have learned.
Yeah,
like text to me is not that important.
Oh, you watch a kid when their phone dings or they get a notification or they light up. Woo, woo.
Yes, you would have thought that like $100 was on the table, and it was like the first one to grab it.
Yeah,
I lose my ever loving mind. I'm also the person that also always has my phone on vibrate. Like I won't say silent anymore because you can hear the vibrate.
Yeah,
but so like. Just now we were laughing because one of the notifications was coming up and it was a ding that reminded you of a TV show.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what is that ding? I don't know that ding. I know that ding. It's from the TV show.
But it almost sometimes scares me when I hear something from my phone because I'm not used to having it on, like noise on.
I'll say this once and then we have to go back on track of the urgency part. But the other day I set reminders because my stupid Alexa, I won't say it out loud, stopped working in my kitchen. And that's what I used to use. Every time I'm like, got my water going or the oven. I mean, that's my alarms all the time, So I had to set it on my phone the other day, and timers, I don't ever set timers on my phone. It just has a different sound than like a reminder or a call or a text.
Right.
And it went off, and Ryan came running in and she was like, turn it off. That's the alarm I have set that I have to wake up for. And I hate that sound.
Oh.
So funny that like sounds and rings and tones and things, we're like physically, personally, emotionally, whatever, associated with these sounds. Like,
yeah,
the phones have absolutely changed us. And we were talking about the urgency, and that is something that, like, yes, available all the time, just the everything at your fingertips, right? And again, we want to get to the fun things, positive things that can come out of it, but we're just making you aware because we want you checking in with yourself. We had to start here because we're like, we have to start with ourselves before we can start with what's it going to look like for our kids. And yes, we know the whole modeling thing and more than our words. And that's one of the podcasts.
Not taught.
Yes, exactly. One of the podcasts even says that we're always like, get off your phone. No. And we're like sitting there and we're on our phone. And it's like the purpose of it is different for everybody, but the relationship of it is what we need to define. Like, what's your relationship like with your phone? What's your relationship like with your phone? And how do you feel? Do you feel like, oh, I love it. My alarm goes off and I can't wait to check my emails, or I can't wait to, grab it and listen to my first, podcast of the day, or is it routine? Like, boom, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. And then like the minute a ding goes up, like, we are emotionally, our nervous system, our dopamine, like everything is attached to our phone. So the only way that we can get in control of all those systems going on in our body is to have it away and to get in tune with just how you feel. Like, for example, last Friday, I had a day and I had got a text right before I walked into yoga. Could not do yoga. Now, thankfully, I have a best friend who is becoming a therapist. And this weekend...
Hey, guess what? It's not me.
Yeah. She gave me...
Just in case.
Yes, just in case. She gave me a tool. Like, she gave me this visual and this thing. And it worked for me this morning, by the way. I have to tell her that. But it's something that I had to do in order to be able to just like get rid of it so that I can be present, enjoy and like get the relaxation I need from yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, you guys, my phone goes in with me into my hot box.
Yep.
Like, I'm trying to relax and it's in there. It's on silent. And it really is like, oh, in case the kids need to get a hold of me from school, but I don't like, it's just always there. And the only time that I can actually, like, this is, I'm just saying this out loud as I'm processing this and we're talking about it. I feel like the only time I can actually put my phone away or not be on it is when we're all home. When all 6 of us are in the house, I could care less about my phone because everybody's there.
Yeah.
That's weird. I mean, it's normal though, right?
It's the new normal.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to get flat tires on the side of the road and not be able to call somebody.
No, because we knew how to change them.
Well, yes. Because my dad and your dad taught us, sure that we knew how to change a tire. Because you're not going to need anybody for that.
That just really...
The phones used to be because in case of emergency, right? And it's still, we still use that excuse. Like the argument of, principals want phone-free schools.
It's not working yet.
And the statistics about those having a school that doesn't allow phones is incredible. Like the amount of grades going up, proficiency in math, science, and reading all go up. But the biggest pushback, like the kids would get over it in 48 hours. Like it's a withdrawal thing, right? And then the teachers, they don't want the phones in there because the kids aren't listening to them. They've got AirPods in or, they're watching something. And then but the parents are the biggest pushback, which is incredible because they're like, well, if there's an emergency, I want my kid to be able to get a hold of me.
Well, it's fear-based, and
It is fear-based.
I mean, it comes from what is going on in our society.
Okay, but
I'm not one of them. I'm just saying I've talked to
parents that okay, so if that is you, I mean, I would question, not you, but if a listener, like, I want you to think about, like, if there's an emergency that happens at school, like, I don't think I don't want my kid to call me. I want my kid to call 911, or I want the teacher to call, like,
well, I think that's the thing. It's like if there's an emergency, that someone's handling it at the school. It doesn't necessarily need to be the kid because they had a phone on them.
Right. And it also doesn't need to be like I mean, if I need my kid at school, I'll call the front desk.
Yeah. Yep. The office.
I'll call the office and say, hey, can you or if my kid needs me, how many times have we been called by the school nurse? Kid's feeling sick. All right, thanks. And then we come pick them up. I mean, I don't like the fact that my kid can text me and say, I feel really, really sick. Like, no.
So now that they have the watches, do they do that?
One has. The other thing that we get is I forgot my binder. Will you bring it up before 9:00? Or like, I forgot this. Like, and when you and I were kids, first of all, if I forgot something, would my parents take a break in the middle of their day to come save my ass? The answer is no. But if I get I think about it, like, because it was on me, the consequences. I forgot my homework. I forgot my lunch. I forgot my, like, you better believe I checked my bag to make sure I had my lunch the next time, or you better believe that I checked to make sure that I didn't turn in my paper late, or my presentation was left on the kitchen counter. Like, that's on me. Now, if my mom or dad was nice enough to go, oh, this clearly was supposed to go to school today, and that was gracious and wonderful of them. It was not expected.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, we are, and this goes to the coddling part, right? Like,
that's a whole nother book, Coddling of the American Mind.
Yes. Same author. The one we don't know.
He was a co-author, but yes. Yes. John H. I wish something. I should know it.
You just Google John H. You'll find it. But that's something too, that like the phones have allowed us to be enablers.
And that's really the hardest part. Oh, there's there's a lot of hard parts of parenting teens, but the phones and what they've created, I can't tell you. I mean, my husband and I, we talk about talking. I hope you and your spouse are communicating, because each other's perspective is so valuable, and you have to get to the other side of what you're both thinking. My favorite is when, and this was Friday's situation when my husband called. He was like, okay, here's what I think it means. Here's what I think it means. And we were totally on different, pages about the situation, and we had to communicate through it. And we got to the end result of, okay, we're Team Stein. This is what we think and believe, and here's how we're handling this. But we had to like share each other's perspective about it. And this whole weekend, we talked so much about it because of some things that were happening with the phones and things that we were witnessing or things that we were hearing. And this is such a different generation that we're parenting. And if you are parenting teens that have the phones, that have the social media, the conversation has to be happening. What's the relationship with your phone? And we can totally tell when our kids are healthy in their relationship with their phone and when they're not. It's if they're being creative or not. It's if they're spending their time going off and doing their own things. Like, I have soccer kids, I have a baseball kid. Are they off doing juggles? Are they off doing things? Or have they for the last 3 hours been in their room and just been on their phone? Like, there has to be communication about it. There has to be some boundaries about it. The phones don't come to the dinner table. I still have limitations on my youngest specifically, lots of limitations there because of all I know. And then I even have tighter restrictions on my middles than I do my oldest. But each person has something different. And mind you, you have to know your kids. I've got a kid who's got an extremely addictive behavior, and I've got one who could put it down and forget it. They're the kid that leaves it at home,
Yeah.
And so you have to know what the relationship is and if it's healthy, and really see how their behavior is, see how they're managing it. And the conversations have to be open, because we have had, a couple different families on here who children have, passed because of suicide, drug overdose. We've had parents on here about anxiety, depression, like all of this is real. And there's so many things that are variables that are included in it with
contributing factors.
Yes, contributing factors, and it's not just how you parent. It's not just your own personal relationship with your phone. There's obviously a lot, but I think the more that we are like, and I brought this episode idea to Tori because I'm really in it. Like I'm really in it with these kids, and I know other parents are too. And we're just trying to do our best, going back to how you feel about it, we're just trying to do our best and setting them up right. But is everybody like looking at it like us? Probably not. It's like out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah. Or they're so focused on it, it's becoming a hindrance into the, if you overprotect, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not letting them have one until they're out of the house. Like, that's not the idea either.
Yep.
And the last thing I want to do for any of you listeners is for you to come away from this episode, one, for thinking that we have it all together, when really, if you know us, you should know us. We don't, and we're okay with that, nor will we ever have it all together on anything. I'm just setting the bar really low for you, so just know that. And then also, too, that while we don't have it figured out, we know that you probably don't have it figured out either.
Yeah.
And you are hearing from all these different experts and reading this book here or this podcast here, this documentary and this study. And it's telling you all of the things that you should be doing and what's going to cause your kid to, go off and do these, they'll be in prison by the time they're 12 because you let them have social media. Like, just, I
haven't read that yet.
No, I haven't read that.
No, I haven't read that one yet.
I'll bring it to you. But the one that you just know that, like, it's okay to take all that in or to not take it all in and just go, okay, like, I'm going to do the best I can with what I have right now. And that's okay. That's really all our kids can ask. I mean, because that's all we can ask.
Yeah.
Of our spouses, of our children, is just the do the best you can with the information you have now.
Yeah.
And don't feel like you're having to take it all in as a water hose or a fire hydrant. I mean, it's self-awareness and awareness of what's going on. Great things. It's like watching the news, national news is like, okay, great. The world is burning. And what am I supposed to do with that all the way here in Kansas? Like, it's no, but I need to be aware of what's going on around me and what is mattering to others and the world and how that affects my culture. And, it's those kinds of things. You can't.
Well, and I would say too, though, the conversation in your home and hopefully with your spouse is, what the goals are, because that's all you can care about. And that is exactly the conversation that we continue to have is like, okay, what are we doing? What's our checkpoint? And we check in on it and we say, okay, is this boundary good enough or not? And that is all you can do, is what you and your family and what you want to do, in those four walls.
Yeah. I want to end on two positive things. I'm going to say what my positive thing is. I'm going to tell you what your positive thing is, because
did you see how she just
I know I did. See, I just told her when you got off of social media, your screen time didn't change.
Correct.
Which you would
I
think.
wanted to talk about that.
I know. And we're now 40 minutes in. Sorry.
I really wanted to do that.
Well, you can do that right now. That's the positive. I talk about how it's changed.
Yeah. I brought that up to her because I went off social media. So no Instagram, no Facebook, no Messenger, no Twitter or X, excuse me, none of it. And my screen time, and again, I'm like, this is why we are totally real. My screen time is on average 4 to 7 hours. 4 is a good day, obviously, because I'm limited, but the 7 hours is average. And that's not on social media. That still means I'm using my phone for other things. I've replaced other things on it. Now, all good things that like I am choosing. It's not distraction. It's not games. It is. And my number one is my messages.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm talking to people more. I'm texting more, and I voice memo. So I love my voice memo. If you're a friend of mine or you get a message from me, you're getting me, my voice, because, and I teach my kids to do this too. You can read in between the lines so much on texting, and I don't like it. I just want you to hear me. I want to bring you joy. I want to make you smile. Like, I am just a voice messenger girl. And so that's why my messaging is so long as like my time frame for the day. And then my other ones is music. I listen to tons of worship. So I'm still on my phone.
Yeah.
Podcasts. Love listening to, a million podcasts. Audible. I listen to books all the time.
Yeah.
And obviously the Bible app, it's always on there. I do it every single day. And I'm trying to think, Instacart. Shopping.
Instacart.
That's the other one.
Okay. So I just pulled up my screen time because I wanted to look at it. So for the last week, my daily average is 4 hours. 4 most used messages, podcasts, and I'm really proud of the Bible. Yay. And that honestly, I will tell you, that's new. And but that's I would say that's my positive thing is I doing the Bible in a year with Tracy through the Bible app, the Bible recap.
Can I pause for a second though? Friends, we want you to know we have our Bibles in front of us.
I don't.
Oh, you don't?
That's what I wanted to say.
Oh, well, that's what I thought it was, just the audio version, because that's what I do. That's why I have it as the audio, because I'm a visual audio.
And I'm not. I actually will.
I always see you with your Bible.
I know, but when I'm listening to the Bible for the Bible in a year, I'm just listening to it.
Okay.
And
so Chris just does too. I just thought that was a thing because I always see you have it in front of you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a very nice compliment that you always have my Bible. But for reading the Bible, I don't have it in front of me.
That is so funny.
There you go. But to me, it's so much easier. I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally do this because I can just know that I'm going to listen. I will listen to hours and hours of podcasts, and I'm going to tell myself that I can't listen to 20 minutes on the Bible. Like,
exactly.
But I will make an excuse every day. I mean, I'm like, I didn't have that quiet time to sit down, have my coffee and read my Bible and listen to it at the same time.
Yep.
I would not. But so that's what I want people to know. Like it's, it doesn't have to be, like you said, what's the relationship with your phone? What are you using it for? Do you feel energized afterwards? Is it encouraging you? Is it building you up, or is it tearing you down? Like, is it something like we were talking about too, our previous lives, because we've had so many. It was our network marketing company. Yeah. Like that had us in Facebook Messenger all day long.
Yeah. And talk about the urgency and the feelings that were attached to that. Like, I'd be in these group messages and these just fire away. And if I was doing anything else, say we were podcasting or we were doing something for 2 hours, you'd go and you'd open it. And it's just like, I'd be defeated before I started. Now, all good things can come from those, but I would have to go back and catch up. And then you're spending all this time, and before you know it, you're like invested in it. And it's been 30 minutes to an hour of just catching up so that you're not behind, but like not doing anything with it either. Like there's so many like feelings that come from, getting behind, not responding to somebody in time. And again, we don't have to go on a tangent about this. That was Andrew's perspective, is like, we also worry about what other people think if we don't get back to them right away. So now we have all these messages in our head, of, oh, they must think I'm not working, or I'm not doing this, or
not. They're not important to me because
I don't care about them.
Because I don't care because I didn't respond immediately to their text message. Or, I mean, also too, the email thing. Like we feel the need to respond to emails like this, when in really, if it was an emergency or like, hey, I need this by 2:00, pick up the phone and call me.
Yeah.
That's how I gauge. It goes, phone call is the most urgent, I will return. And then to say text and email are pretty equal.
Yeah.
I don't see them as,
Email's on my bottom list.
Yeah. I would probably say yes, it is. I say it's probably a little bit more with the business, but I mean, again, it's a false narrative. We've told ourselves that, well, if I don't respond, then my customers are going to think that I don't care, or my, so-and-so is going to think that I'm not listening to her, or that I'm, if that she tells me a prayer request and I don't thumbs up it or say, PTL, that I'm not going to pray for her.
Praise the Lord.
Yes. Sorry. Praise the Lord. Look at me throwing out acronyms.
Yes.
I just want you to know.
Oh, we get to you didn't read my text, did you? We're going to have a whole nother podcast on adults not growing up.
Oh, no, I didn't read that one.
Yep. We're going to talk about that.
It's on my unread list.
Yes.
It's on my text.
It is. It wasn't an urgent matter. So she said, well,
I'll get that later. Yeah. So
you could do that and it's okay. I'm not offended.
Yeah, I'm not offended either. And most of these people too, they have, look how many unread emails people have and look how many unread text messages people have. Like, it is okay.
Yeah.
Just, that.
And it's okay to put your phone on Do Not Disturb. We do it. We do it so that we can record with you. And I have no idea if the school called or kids or whatever. And it's okay.
Right. Because, I mean,
I should do it in yoga.
Yeah. We really should.
We really should.
Or we should just leave the phone in the car for yoga.
Yeah, that's true. I can't. It's how I have to get in the door.
Oh, wow.
See, it like everywhere we go, it's required.
It's my wallet.
Yeah. I mean my wallet. Too.
Your phone is your wallet.
Yeah.
But like for me, like I could just take my phone and just right there for the Apple Pay.
Yep.
That's fun. So, or Amazon with my Palm. No, do not give Amazon your Palm.
Didn't
do
it.
Don't do it.
We had if you don't know that, Whole Foods does that. If you're an Amazon, Prime member, we went in and she said that I could pay with my Palm. And I looked at my husband and I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Isn't it scary?
No.
I'm like,
I will scan my QR code and walk out.
No,
I'll get my Palm.
I will put my phone number in because everybody has my phone number, which is insane. That's another. Ooh, can I tell that story later about I give my phone number to everyone, aka my business card?
Oh yeah, we'll do that later. That's another episode.
We'll do that later. That's a fun one too. So
too soon.
So we hope that we've encouraged you. We hope that we've
awareness.
Yeah.
Just talking awareness and relatability because we don't have the answers. We just want you to know you're not alone.
Yep. Not alone in this.
Yep.
And we're still figuring it out too.
That's right. And we're doing our best.
Yep. So all our kids will be all screwed up together. Just start saving money for therapy instead of college. It's fine.
It is.
That totally would have been more helpful. So with that, housewives.
Bye. See you next week.
Until next time.
Whether we made you laugh or cry today, we pray you feel appreciated, bolder and braver than yesterday, stronger and more faithful for tomorrow, and living in who you were made to be today.
Join our online community on Facebook, link in the show notes, and be sure to review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy listening. Until next time, housewives, we give you permission to walk confidently, free, and to be intentional in your slippers or stilettos.